All right, so this is about as close as we've ever gotten to real confirmation that a Giannis trade is genuinely on the table. Shams drops a report, everyone reacts, and suddenly it feels less like speculation and more like inevitability. The big question now isn't if, it's when. Is this something that happens before the deadline, or does it drag into the offseason? Before we even get into trade destinations, there's one thing we can't ignore: Giannis's calf issue. There's still no official diagnosis out there, which is frustrating, but the assumption seems to be a 4 to 6 week absence. And that alone has completely shifted the conversation. When you're talking about a player of Giannis's size, with his explosiveness and movement patterns, repeated calf injuries are not nothing, especially when he dealt with something similar just a month and a half ago. That reality alone might push this whole thing toward the offseason instead of a deadline deal. Now, when I start looking at potential landing spots, I keep running into the same problem over and over again. None of these situations are clean. Every team has something missing. Maybe they don't control all their future picks. Maybe they need a third team to cooperate. And in the Knicks case, specifically, the third team keeps being the Blazers, which honestly raises a huge red flag for me. Here's what I keep coming back to. The Bucks are already missing a good chunk of their own future draft capital. They don't control their pick this year outright. Best case scenario, they still end up with a high pick if both they and the Pelicans struggle, but they don't get the better of the two. And with the new lottery odds, banking on multiple top picks gets pretty risky. That's why if Giannis isn't traded at the deadline, I seriously wonder how much we even see him the rest of this season. Which then creates the weird opposite question. If he is traded, how much does the acquiring team even play him right away? So naturally, the Bucks would love to get some of their own picks back. That's where Portland keeps coming up in these discussions, especially with the idea of Giannis ending up in New York. The Blazers control multiple Bucks picks from the Dame trade, and there's been reporting that Portland has interest in Mikal Bridges. But if I'm Portland, absolutely not. Those Bucks picks are incredibly valuable. Why would I give them back just to help the Knicks land Giannis? If I'm trading those picks, my question isn't, can I get Mikal Bridges? It's, can I get Giannis? And the Knicks, as good as their asset stash is, still can't offer a mountain of unprotected firsts. They can do swaps, sure, but this is Giannis. You want clean, unprotected picks. That deal almost certainly ends with Giannis in New York and Milwaukee rebuilding without full control of its future. Again, assuming Portland even cooperates. I wouldn't if I were them. And just to make things worse for Milwaukee, they don't have their pick at all next year. No swap, no protections, nothing. Given where the team is right now, that's brutal. As for other teams, Miami always pops up. There was a report that Pat Riley feels confident he can get Giannis, but we've heard this story before. Miami gets linked to everyone. Outside of the Jimmy Butler steal years ago, most of those pursuits never actually materialize. Realistically, Miami can offer maybe 2 unprotected picks starting deep into the 2030s, plus a pile of swaps and some combination of Harrow, Jaquez, Jovic, or Ware. That's a solid package, but for Giannis, I'd be shocked if that ends up being the best offer Milwaukee sees. The Warriors are another team people bring up. Financially, they can make it work, and they do have unprotected picks they can move despite some restrictions. The issue is the players. I don't think Milwaukee looks at anyone on Golden State's roster and says, yeah, we can flip that guy for more assets later. Draymond's trajectory is obvious. Kuminga's market is what it is. And as uncomfortable as it is to say, even Jimmy Butler, your RS contract, if they tried to loop him in, doesn't carry much positive value at this stage, even if it's short-term money. Toronto is a more interesting case. They're not constantly rumored, but when you look at teams that are competitive, have financial flexibility, and still control all their picks, the Raptors stand out. There's already been chatter about deals involving RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl in other contexts, mostly because of contract timelines. And while Raptors fans generally hate those ideas, because RJ has been good and Sabonis, for example, is expensive, the Raptors do check a lot of boxes. The basketball fit, though, gets weird. A Giannis-Scottie Barnes pairing is fascinating but awkward. They're similar archetypes, big, physical wings who want to live in the paint and don't rely on jump shooting. Giannis is obviously the evolved version, but you could end up with too many players who all want to attack the rim without spacing the floor. Most Raptors fans probably look at that and say, we're good. We've got our picks. We're improving. Why rush this? And trading Scottie for Giannis? That's just not happening. Houston technically could do it. They're good. They're loaded with picks. But the most recent reporting says they're not interested. And honestly, that tracks. They're in such a comfortable long-term position. Same thing with San Antonio. Yes, Wembanyama and Giannis would be absurd together. Everyone knows that. But you'd be giving up a lot of flexibility. They're young, they're asset-rich, and while their guard play raises real playoff questions, they're still in an enviable spot. You can throw out some truly wild cards, too. Could the Bulls call Milwaukee and offer everything? Maybe, but I doubt it. At the end of the day, someone is going to trade an insane package for Giannis. Milwaukee is going to get a massive return. I just don't know how clean their own draft future looks once the dust settles, whether this happens next week or months from now.